Welcome to the Peterson's Bowhunting Podcast. All bow hunting, all the time. Now, here's your host, Editor Christian Berg.
All right, welcome to the Bowhunting Podcast. We are all bow hunting all the time, and today we are going to talk a little suburban bow hunting in the outskirts of New York City, of all places. And I have as our guest today, Jacqueline Molina, who is with an organization called Babes and Bucks of Long Island. So, Jacqueline, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You know, I actually got tipped off by somebody who does like public relations for PBS, I think. You and your group were featured, I guess, on a PBS series that takes a look at different outdoor-oriented pursuits around the country. And tell me a little bit about that, and how did they find out about you guys?
You know, I honestly don't know how they found me. I mean, unless they typed in female hunter. So a lot of times if people type in female hunters or female hunters Long Island, a New York Times article comes up that I was in and a few other girls were in 2 years ago that featured female hunters in Long Island tackling the deer overpopulation, things like that. So I think Susan, I think she just Googled female hunters and she said I came up, because then I got an email and I'm like, this can't be real. This got to be a scam. But I Googled her and then I saw that she was legit. And then we started talking and they wanted to, know more about female hunters and suburban hunting and what's that like, and, what it's like to be a female hunter in Long Island, because it's not something typically that most people think of. When you think of hunting, you don't think Long Island.
No, you don't. But on the other hand, now, like I said, before we started, here in the bow hunting community, we're a little bit more tuned in. And I think that most guys, like I'm not that far away. I'm just a couple hours away in Pennsylvania. We know if you're into bow hunting, like sometimes those suburban areas can have some of the best bow hunting that you'll find. And
absolutely.
A lot of times there's some pretty big bucks in these neighborhoods and stuff, but it's a different kind of hunting. So, I mean, we'll get into all that, but I just wanted to back up because your organization, I mean, it's a cool name. It's different. I mean, I'm never going to get to be part of a group called Babes and Bucks in anything. Where did that come from? How long have you guys been around, and how many women do you have, hunting there in your area?
So like I said, when that New York Times article came out, I only knew two girls that hunted in Long Island, myself and Julia and Marissa. And when we were asked to be in this part of this article, we had a photographer come out. They came on a hunt with us. They wanted to see what our life is like outside of hunting. So it was just a really nice experience. So we thought, there's got to be other women like us in Long Island that enjoy hunting, fishing, hiking, the outdoors, all that stuff. So we started a group, Long Island Babes and Bucks. And, what we really want to show people is that, there's no stereotype of what a female hunter should look like. For example, I have nails. Sometimes I wear makeup. Sometimes I don't. I'm a nurse. There's all different ages, all different, types of women that do these outdoor activities that have been doing them for many, many, many years. We're not the first by any means, but we want to show women, and even like the younger girls, like we do a lot of work with the Girl Scouts troops. We want to show them this isn't a boys' sport. Girls can do this too. I'm fresh out of a hunt right now. I just washed my hands with blood. I do it all by myself. And I really want to just show other women and kids that you can do it by yourself. You don't need a partner that does it. My boyfriend doesn't hunt. He's a big fisherman. So, he's fishing today and I'm hunting today and that's it.
I think a lot of times, especially when, people see women hunting, they think that maybe they got into it because of their dad or their boyfriend or their husband or whatever. How did you get into it? Did you get into it all by yourself?
So I love this question. I did not grow up hunting or fishing at all. I started hunting about 10 years ago from an ex-boyfriend. I remember I was in nursing school And, it's something that I wanted to do with my partner at the time. And I remember sitting in the tree stand with my textbook on my lap, and I'm turning the page to study. And he's like yelling at me, like, the deer are going to hear it. You're being so loud. So then when that relationship, that ended, I was like, you know what? I have all this gear. I have a bow. I have all this equipment. I was like, I'm going to do it. This is, I'm going to put a lot of time and energy. I'm going to learn, and I'm going to do it. And I had one of my best friends, Rich. He became my hunting mentor, and he literally taught me everything from how to put a harness on, and I asked him all the questions, like, why do we have to be in the stand before sunrise? Or, why this, why that? What's the rut? I asked him every basic question that every new hunter asks or, doesn't know. And I've come so far, and it's just amazing. And then he said to me after my first hunt, all right, you want to be a hunter? Go scout, go find a spot, go do it. I did one hunt with him, and then it was like the training wheels came off. And from there on out, I did it all by myself. And, that's just, what was the question?
And how long ago did you say this was? So when did you actually start? About 10 years ago?
About like 9 years ago. Yeah, about 10 years ago.
And so tell me about and so, here's the interesting thing. And, because you're on Long Island, and it's fairly, heavily populated, I would imagine. Long Island's an interesting place because, I'm going to make a statement of the obvious, right? It's called Long Island because it's really long. And no, but the reason I say that is, of course, the western edge of it borders right up against the city,
Right.
But when you get all the way out to Montauk, and I don't know exactly where you're at in Long Island, but I would actually think it gets a little bit rural, way out towards the end, or certainly not as built up as it is. So could you just give me an idea of how developed is Long Island? It probably really runs the gamut, doesn't it? From super congested areas to areas that are a little bit quiet and kind of woodsy, right?
100%. So, you can't hunt in Nassau County, which is the county closest to the city. So bordering, my boyfriend, he lives in Amityville. So where we are right on the canal, the houses are very close together. And I grew up in Smithtown where people had backyards and fences. So even in Amityville, it's strange to me to be so close to your neighbor. So the more farther out east you get, the more spread out, the more property people have. I have a friend, Brian, who he grew up in Malvern, and every time he comes out by me and talk it, he's like, you live in the middle of nowhere, you live in the sticks. And I'm like, this is normal for me. And it's, I don't know, it's not what he thinks it is. But once, you hit even Miller Place, Sound Beach, Ridge, Manorville, Sentiment Riches, once you start hitting there, it's, lots of properties, lots of open spaces. So, and that's mostly where I hunt.
And so the thing is, it's funny because everything's relative, because I can remember, being from the East, the first Western hunt I did was an antelope hunt out in South Dakota. And the guy that we hunted with out there, he was like, well, I only have a small ranch. It's only 20,000 acres. And my uncle has a really big place. It's 150,000 acres. And he was almost embarrassed that he only had a 20,000 acre ranch. And I was like, dude, if you go back to where I live, you might be hunting on a 5-acre property and you think that's great. And I'm going to guess that a lot of the properties that you hunt on, they're not even an acre, or maybe they're an acre, and you're literally a lot of times you're probably set up in people's backyard. You could see their house, or you can see the road, and people are walking their dogs down the street, or the mail guy is delivering the mail, and you're shooting a deer, right?
100%. I mean, I nuisance hunt on a farm and a vineyard, and there was a time or two where I'm in the stand and I hear people with their glasses of wine coming down behind me, totally oblivious that I'm there. And a lot of it too is I get a lot of patients that, they want the deer gone. They see the deer eating their plants and things like that. So that's how I acquire a lot of my spots, word of mouth. I'm like, hey, you shoot deer, can you come to my property? And it's always nice to do a service for people that want the deer gone, and I get to benefit from it as well because I enjoy the meat. My chest freezer is everything that I shoot. It's, I got deer, I got tuna, I got fluke, black sea bass, stripers, I got everything. The only meat I buy is chicken, if that. But it just, it benefits me, benefits the homeowner. And you know what? It's the deer, they're overpopulated in Long Island. I have a friend and he was riding his motorcycle out east and a doe just came barreling out, knocked him off. He was in a coma for like 2 months. So, it's a problem here.
Yeah. Now, so obviously that is an issue because it's, there's a lot of habitat and then not necessarily a lot of opportunity for hunting. So probably vehicles are the number one predator on Long Island when it comes to deer,
Yeah.
So how many deer can you actually kill every year there? Is the state pretty liberal because of the overpopulation and like allowing you to have like unlimited doe tags or what?
I don't know how to answer that, but I do believe New York is very liberal in a sense where hunters really aren't favored, I guess, especially in like suburban and rural hunting where I am. But you get 2 buck tags. You're allowed to have 2 bucks and you can't transfer those over. So let's say my boyfriend hunts and he didn't shoot a buck. He can't give me his buck tag. And then you can get a DMP tag for the doe permit. So when you shoot a doe, you can go to your like Dick's or something or your local sporting store where you buy your tags from, and they'll issue you another doe tag. That starts in I don't know the exact date. I think it's like early November. You can start doing the DMP tags, like getting a replacement doe tag.
So does that ever run out, or can you just keep on every time you shoot a doe? Can you get another one?
I don't know how. I mean, I've only done it twice, so I don't know 100% if you can just keep doing it. But I've done it twice, so I was able to do it at least 2 times. So
how many deer do you usually shoot each year?
It depends. Like last year I shot 2, the year before that I shot 3, but then I nuisance hunt in the off season too. So I get the nuisance tags. This summer I took out like 2 or 3. And that's just a real blast to do in the summer. If you've ever, it's hot today, like when I was hunting today, but, the nuisance hunting, it's always interesting in the summer. I got to make sure, my butcher can take my deer right away.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me about your hunt this morning. You said you literally were scrambling to get home and just get on this call. Was it a typical Long Island hunt for you?
It was. And sometimes I go into hunts. I'm like, all right, I'm probably not going to see anything that I want to shoot, but I love being in the woods. I like being out there. So I even got into the woods a little bit later than I wanted to, because even in the morning, I was still toying with the idea. Should I go fishing with my boyfriend for stripers, or do I want to go hunt? I'm like, it's really warm outside. Like it's at like 5 a.m. It was like 62 degrees. It was warm. So I said, I'm going to go hunt. So the property that I was at, I have a few stands set up. I was going to go to the ladder stand. As I'm walking to the ladder stand, I see like 5 heads right in front of my stand. I'm like, all right, I can't go there. So I walked down to my hang on and climbed up there. And then, there was activity. I had a doe and a yearling about like 80 yards behind me. They weren't coming in, so I knew I didn't have a shot. Then, just as I was reaching for my mid-morning snack, I see a buck that wasn't my target buck, but he was nice, but he wasn't my target buck, with a doe. I see like legs in between brush, so I'm just kind of looking around, and then they didn't blow at me or stomp. They just kind of trotted away, and I saw his rack, and I was like, oh yeah, I've seen him on my camera. So I wasn't too upset about that. It was just nice to see all that activity, especially on a warm day. So then I see this doe come in to my right side, and she was decent size. She was a really mature doe, good size. So she comes in, she has no clue. So I stand up and holding my bow, and then she kept coming in, and I was just I was ready to shoot it. I was going to shoot her at 25 yards, but she kept coming. I was like, all right. So she kept coming in. So I had a perfect opportunity to take her at 12 yards. Had a nice broadside shot, and she ran, and she probably ran about like 20 yards, and I heard a crash, and it was like the best sound in the world, because I was like, it is 1,000 degrees, and all the condensation from the fog, like things were still wet, so you couldn't really, I didn't hear it. Like any of these deer like come in, so you have to just really be observant. So I'm not the most textbook hunter, you know, you're supposed to wait, but I was really excited. I heard that crash and I was like, it's really hot. So I'm like, let me climb down, saw a little blood trail, and sure enough, there she was. And it was a great hunt. I didn't expect it. So
yeah, congrats. So you filled the tag this morning. And so did you take care of that all by yourself then? Is that typical? Are you usually out there alone and you got the deer and drag it and load it up? And what kind of a vehicle do you drive? Do you have a way to get these deer to the butcher without getting blood all over your
Oh
vehicle?
my God. No, it's inevitable to not get blood. I mean, at least for me. It's funny you asked this question because I just look like a hot mess, but it's, you know, it's real. It's real hunting. It's real deal. But you know, don't let me fool you. My gloves that I used to field dress in, they are pink. They're from the dollar store, and they're the pink dishwashing gloves that come up to your elbows.
Yeah.
And so at this property, I was able to drive my car up, not too close, but just closer enough because it's a hike. You know, this is like a lot of acres. This one's a spot that I hunt. So, you know, I grabbed my gloves, I grabbed my knife, I grabbed my butt out tool, dragged the sled over to it, you know, had to take a few pictures. Thank God for the self timer because I do hunt by myself. I do everything myself, set up stands, cameras, moving things around, field dress, everything, you know, it's me. You know, I hunt, I do it all by myself. So I field dressed her and then got her in the sled, dragged her to my car. So I drive a 4Runner. I think this is the last year I'm going to have the 4Runner. I think I need to pick up at this point. But the 4Runner, man, she's a beast. She's like a 2010 and the amount of deer, fish, everything that's been in that car. So I put her in the sled and, you know, it was a lot. I almost panicked a little bit because for a small second, I didn't think I was going to be able to get the sled into my 4Runner. I mean, lifting up a deer or lifting up a sled into anything, a truck, even is hard, you know? And if you're by yourself. So you should have seen, it was like, what's that movie? Austin Powers with the little car. Like I lifted up the sled and angled it up on one side of the car. Then I ran around the other car and I'm trying to pull it in, going back, pushing it, and I'm pulling it, pushing the seats up. I'm dripping sweat. And I'm just like, oh my God, like this is like a lie. I panicked for a split second.
Have you ever, let me ask you this, have you ever just flagged down a random stranger and be like, can you help me throw this deer carcass in the back of my vehicle?
No, I haven't. See, the problem is when I hunt randomly during the week is like, if I'm in a situation like this where I need like someone to help me, everyone's at work, you know what I mean? So it's hard. So weekends, you know, my guy friends, my boyfriend, anyone, the girls, there's so many people that I can call, but it was like 9:30 on a Tuesday, you know? And sometimes I like to hunt before work too. And I think about that, like, all right, if I shoot something, what am I going to, you know, call in late or whatever. So yeah, it was a lot of work this morning. I was dripping sweat. And, but once I got her in, I was just like, oh, thank God. And then I had to bring him to the butcher. So my butcher, Rob, he actually relocated to Idaho. So this is my first season not using him. So I'm using a new butcher and he's great. And he actually just gave me some samples of venison sausages that I'm going to cook and a pinwheel, cheese and venison and something. I'm going to cook those up tonight. But yeah, I dropped the deer off. He said, what kind of cuts do you want? I said, you know, basic backstrap, shot meat, you know, steaks, like all that stuff. And then my phone died. And then I'm driving here and I'm trying to respond to your email because I didn't acknowledge it earlier because I was hunting and I didn't really have service. I try not to be on my phone too much. I really just like to enjoy, you know, the tranquility of being in the woods and seeing what's going to happen. So then like the sled is still in my car with the blood in there. I have the windows down. I just didn't have time to take it out, so I had to hop on here.
Oh, you got to go rinse that out after our interview, right?
Oh yeah, I gotta rinse that out, and I'm gonna cook this venison, and then we got some striped bass in the fridge that we want to grill that up too. So a little like surf and turf, I guess.
See, I think you're educating a lot of people there. See, people in a lot of the other parts of the country don't realize, you know, these folks on Long Island are living pretty large. They're getting good hunting. They've got great fishing right there. And
great fishing. Yeah.
You're probably consuming more wild game than a lot of people who live truly in the middle of nowhere.
I mean, I love it. I enjoy it. And, our group Babes and Bucks on Wednesdays, we do a wild game Wednesday where people submit, their meals that of wild game that we posted. And the person I'm posting tomorrow, they got some squid. So they fried it up and made some nice calamari.
So do you guys get together then and have like group dinners and stuff like that?
Yeah, we do events and we do a lot. We do fundraising too. Like we fundraising to veterans all the time, vet pets for breast cancer awareness, Alzheimer's, and we do a lot of events for kids. We work with the Girl Scouts troop, help them earn their archery badge at our archery shop. Deanna was the instructor, so it was nice to have like the Girl Scouts see women that do archery, and not necessarily you don't have to hunt, but just seeing that we do archery too. And I brought in my bow. My old bow is a pink diamond. Love that bow. Phenomenal bow. It's a great beginner bow. I shot so many deer with that bow. I just upgraded 2 years ago, last year, to Matthews V3. Love that bow too.
That's a great bow. So who's your local archery shop? I always love to give a shout out to the archery shops around the country. Who's the go-to guy or gal for bows and equipment there on Long Island?
So there's two great shops and they're both really awesome. And then I've had great experiences at both and they always welcome me with open arms anytime I need to run in there for anything. The Smith's Point Archery, which is in Patchogue, and Jeff is the owner. He's great. I bought my Matthews from him. And then there's Archery Forum in Medford. It's owned by Chuck. And Dan is, one of his top employees. Dan's always there, always knowledgeable. I remember one time I was hunting and I think something happened with my cams or I don't know, my strings came, I don't know, something happened and my bow wasn't right. So I literally ran out of my stand, ran to the Archery Forum and I was like, Dan, can you fix my bow? And, they're great. So they're very knowledgeable, both shops, they carry most of the same bows except I don't know that rule with bow shops, like only one can carry this and one can carry that, or I forget what it is.
Yeah, if they have territories. So
yeah. But, bow shops are great.
That's awesome. So you mentioned you're shooting the Matthews V3. What are your other equipment preferences? People always like to advocate for their favorite broadhead. What kind of broadheads do you like to shoot?
I played around with a few different broadheads and, I think a lot of factors are like, what draw weight are you shooting? How far are you shooting? So I like the Stinger 2 blades. I also been playing around with the Montex, and they do come in pink, the Montex. And, I've been using the same arrows too. I use the Ted Nugent Gold. I really like those ones. So, just for me, if it works, I stay with it. Same thing. Like when I go get coffee or I go to eat, I get the same thing no matter where I go. I'm a creature of habit. So it's been working for me, but that's just me. Some people might hate
there's a lot of good products out there for bow hunting. So I'm with you. Yeah. Like, if it's not broke, don't fix it,
Yeah.
And you're obviously, being in a suburban area like that, you have an opportunity to shoot more deer every year, honestly, than the average bow hunter. There might be people out in the Midwest who shoot a lot of big bucks, but I don't know that they're killing more deer than you are. You have quite a few, probably in 8 years. I'm going to guess you've killed probably over 30 or 40 deer since you started this.
I'm not quite there yet, but getting there. It's the downfall with hunting, in Long Island. There's a lot of hunters out there. There's a lot of people out there. And then I work full time, trying to balance, my personal life and everything. So it's hard to get out there as much as you want to. And then, it gets really cold here. And, I hunt to the very end till January 31st. And it's very cold. I just upgraded to some Sitka gear. So I'm hoping that's gonna, keep me nice and warm. But
did you get the Fanatic jacket and bibs?
I got a bib, a jacket, a headband thing, and a neck gaiter thing.
You will like that. I've had that Fanatic stuff for a number of years.
Yeah.
And when it gets really cold, it's hard to beat. Yeah, that's going to help.
It's hard to pull your bow back. I remember last January, I ran back to the archery shop and I was like, can you lower the poundage on my bow? I can't pull it back. I'm so cold. And, that's one thing that I tell the girls too, practice shooting in your late season gear, practice shooting in your light season gear, like what I'm wearing, because pulling back when you're in a big jacket or in your, it's different. I always tell the girls, practice shooting standing up, practice shooting sitting, practice in a blind, like there's different elevations, like all those things play a factor, at least in my opinion. Yeah.
So what kind of reaction do you get from people when they find out you're a hunter? I mean, you said, several times that you're a nurse. So maybe it's, coworkers at the hospital or, just somebody at the grocery store or whatever. I mean, do people think probably get a mix of reactions? Some people probably think it's cool. Some people probably think it's a little strange.
I mean, I kind of try to read the room before I divulge that information, because when you can like just straight up say, oh, I'm a hunter. But most people like people that know me, like most people know that this is what I do. This is who I am. But a lot of people don't expect me to say, oh, I'm a hunter. Like when you see my car and they come into the office, I've had a few men say, oh, who's got the truck with the deer stickers and the tuna sticker on there? And then, I think they automatically kind of pan to the first male in the room. And I'm like, oh, it's me. And then I had one patient and he had like a Realtree hoodie on. And I was like, oh, do you hunt? And he goes, no. And I was like, oh, all right. And he goes, why, do you? And I go, yeah. It's a mixed reaction. People either support it or they're totally against it because they don't understand it. And, they just need to be educated on what it is that we do. They think I'm out there like Rambo, just slinging arrows left and right, which isn't the case.
So let me ask you this. I'm curious, has all the hunting that you've done so far been right there close to home? And if so, are there things now that you've been a hunter for, like 8 years or so, like you said, do you like have in your mind, some things like, man, I'd love to go, out west someday and hunt elk or mule deer or something like that?
Absolutely. I mean, I just did my first out-of-state hunt. I did a hog hunt in Florida, which was an absolutely wild experience. It was very cool. I had a great time. I did that. My dream hunt is Montana. Love Montana. I've been there a few times before I was a hunter, many years ago. And Montana is beautiful. You know what it is? It's something like I have my guy friends. They just went out to, where did they go? Illinois, they're going to Illinois. And my other group of guy friends, they just came back from Ohio. That's something that I would like to do. It's just hard because, I want to go with some girls that are really, avid about it, but it's, a lot of the girls, like they're married, they have kids. So it's really hard to just, find a crew of girls to do that with. But yeah, that's definitely something I would like to do.
So, yeah. I mean, I'd love to see you have that opportunity. Hunting hogs is fun. You did that with your bow?
No. We had the dogs, and then we did it with I don't remember the kind of gun. We did it. Yeah, we did it at night. It was savage.
Oh, yeah.
And they taught me how to castrate dogs, and it was a whole thing. And then I was like, are the dogs going to kill the hogs? Because the dogs really get after them, So that was a pretty cool hunt. That was a great experience. Yeah.
So have you recruited other women into hunting there on Long Island? It sounds like maybe you have.
You know what? It's a mixture of girls that hunted that I just didn't know existed. So it was nice that everyone kind of came out of the woodworks, and then there were girls that like in the group. So in the group, some girls hunt and fish. Some just hunt, some just fish, some are just starting to get their feet wet and exploring archery. I've taken a few girls and, mentored them and taken them on their first hunts, and like I had one girl, we were doing a spot and stalk, and she got into a full draw, and I don't know why she didn't take the shot. I don't know if she was nervous, but it was pretty cool to see her get into a full draw at like 10 yards at a deer. And then I took one girl, I had her sit and hang on a climber and different things to see like how she feels comfortable shooting. I tell her, I say, if it's like really poor weather, if it's downpouring rain, I probably won't go in the hang on. That's just me being cautious. What was that? If it's super cold out and I don't feel like climbing, I'll go into my blind. So there's different options, different things that, so I make a makeshift blind too. There's I make all this brush and everything. But yeah, I mean, it's nice to meet all these girls that have the same hobbies, you know. And then when we have events, it's fun. Like it's not all just centered about hunting and fishing, but it's all girls that have the same hobbies and passions. Like we did a wine night one time, and that was a lot of fun. You know, we did a paint night. I can't even remember, but we do a lot of like activities, and it's nice.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is, you know, I think you said something at the beginning of the interview about people, you know, wanting to know like something about what's it like, you know, to be a girl who hunts on Long Island or whatever. But it's like, well, hunters are just like everybody else, really. I mean, we hunt, but I'm into, you know, sports and cars and just regular stuff that any other guy would be into. And like you said, I mean, you like, sounds like you like cooking and wine and painting and whatever. And yeah, you need to take care of something there.
That's my Bella, my dog.
Oh my goodness. But, you know, it's great for people to, you know, just realize that you don't have to be, you know, anything unusual. You know, hunting is not unusual. And that's where you're bringing that to the awareness of, you know, a different group of people there, you know, in your neck of the woods.
Well, you know, I guess we should say it's not unusual to us, you know, like, but it's unusual to people that don't do it. And then, you know, it's nice when you can kind of educate them on what we do as hunters, and they either accept it or they don't. And, you know, you can't change people's opinions, but it doesn't mean that they're a bad person just because you don't agree. Like I've had people, you know, say horrible things about being a hunter, horrible things. And I used to get very upset about it. And I used to take it personally. Like I had one person say like, you have a dog, how could you shoot deer? And I'm, you know, and it's just, I don't know, you can't reason with certain people if they're just not going to understand, and you just have to bow out gracefully. And that's, you know, what I've learned over the past few years, how to handle the negativity that comes with being a hunter.
Yeah, it's all you can do is try to, you know, conduct yourself in the most ethical way you can. And
absolutely.
You know, you don't have to make apologies. And people, you know, it's really, they don't understand, is I think what it boils down to. And they don't want to see, you know, because it's funny. You know, I have two boys, and my older son, his fiance, she's from New Jersey, and she didn't grow up around hunting, and she's not necessarily super keen on it. And, you know, I have all kinds of taxidermy all around the house and everything. And she says something sometimes, and I'm like, you know, I just tell her, I'm like, look, if you don't like it, I understand, and that's fine. Like, you don't have to like it. You don't have to do it. But understand that where you grew up and here is two different worlds. I'm like, if you go to my friend who's the farmer, you know, who owns where I hunt, go tell him, you know, and he's going to tell you, like, do you see all these deer out in the field, literally like eating my livelihood, like taking money out of my family's pocket? There's so many of them. There's like 30 of them out there in the field. Like, they have to be controlled. So you don't have to like it. You don't have to do it, but it doesn't change reality. But
absolutely. And, you know, even going back to the livelihood, like one of the places I hunt, the homeowner, you know, his dog died from Lyme's disease. And, you know, everyone knows like deer carry ticks, especially in Long Island. And, so, you know, it's a problem. So he wants the deer out of his yard, and after his dog passed away. And, you know, one of the other things I try to explain to people is that, you know, and not everyone does this, and, you know, but just me personally, I try to utilize as much of the animal that I can. Aside from the meat, you know, keeping the meat and eating the meat, I'll cut off the tails, and they can be used for bucktails for fishing. And then I take the heads, the skulls. I taught myself how to hydro dip, and I hand paint skulls now. I had one person, he brought me a bullhead, and I didn't realize how big the head was. I've never had a bullhead. I've never seen a bullhead in real life before. So he was like, oh, you know, what do you charge? And I'm like, I don't know. What do I charge? Like, it was like the first like thing that someone paid me to do. So I gave him like a price, and he's like, are you sure? I was like, yeah, I think I said like $50. I had no idea. The thing was this big, like this, like huge. And I was like, oh, it might be a little bit more than that. It's going to be like more time. But that was a fun project. He wanted all black mat, and then I, you know, hand painted everything, and the crevices gold. Like, it was really cool. So
that's
yeah,
awesome.
that's
You're going to be an artist now too.
it's fun. It's hard. I made one for my boyfriend. He has like a tiki bar in his backyard by the dock. So I made like a Rasta themed one. Like I did a Rasta colors on a doe head, which is fun. But yeah, it's just another way to utilize part of the animal and display it. And I taught myself how to do euros. They're not that great, but I'm getting there. But it's fun,
Yeah, absolutely. So you also, you've talked about like the meat a bunch of times and stuff. I'm curious, what's your favorite venison recipe? Is there something that you really, really like?
Yeah. Okay, it's a venison meatloaf. Okay. So you take the chopped meat and then trying to think it off. I have it written down somewhere, but offhand, and then you flatten it out on like a baking dish. Then you do a layer of spinach, a layer of ham, and a layer of provolone, and you roll it so it's like a big roll.
Oh,
and then it gets better. Then you put strips of bacon over it, and you bake it. And then when you're done, I make a honey balsamic glaze that I drizzle over it. Oh, it's so good.
Sounds like you could like be charging some pretty good money for a slice of that too.
Yeah, I wish, there was one restaurant out here that every so often they'll have wild game. Like I think they had elk one night, they had venison one night, but not many places really have it. So it's nice to be able to cook it. My friends cook it all the time. My one friend, Marissa, she's a really good cook. She cooks it all the time. Basically anything that there's meat, you can just substitute it for venison, in my opinion.
Absolutely. So you've gotten a fair bit of notoriety, I guess, from some newspaper articles and television and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice, but I don't like reach. It just finds me. I don't, I just do what I do, and I'm like, me. Why do they want me? I'm like, there's better hunters out there. I don't know, but it is nice to be recognized, and it's just more so. It's nice that I'm representing the female hunting community. I should say, and that showing people that we're out here doing it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm wondering what folks can do if like they want to connect with you or your group, maybe support, some of the things you talked about, like your fundraisers or whatever. Do you guys have like social media accounts for your Babes and Bucks deal?
Yep. So we have our Instagram page, Long Island Babes and Bucks. And then we have a Facebook page. You just search Long Island Babes and Bucks. And then we have a Facebook group, which is nice because it's all women. So only women can join that. And it's really nice. And
if I sign up, you're not going to let me in. That's what you're telling me, right?
But you can follow the other pages, the Instagram and the Facebook page. But you know what it is? It's just nice. Like, I don't, and this is like one of the aspects of being a female hunter or a female angler, walking into a tackle shop or an archery shop, it can be intimidating, and I golf too. So even just going on the golf course, it can be intimidating. And I've seen, women ask basic questions in these hunting groups, like, hey, what kind of broadhead should I use for this? And then it's like, you either get super helpful comments or you kind of get some like jerk off comments from guys, and I'll never forget the very first time I commented in a hunting group years ago. I asked a question and I either got really good responses or I got, you're only in here for attention. You don't hunt, and it's really discouraging. So, what the Babes and Bucks group being all women, it's just a nice space that women can ask questions and, not feel, that they're being put down or, not taken seriously. And I'm not saying that everyone in all these hunting groups do that, but it's, it does happen and it's unfortunate. And, there's a lot of jealousy too. Like I've seen it with men against women. Women shoot bigger bucks than them. And it's like, oh, well, you only get to hunt there because you're a woman. Like, no, sometimes
I've heard a lot of guys say this over the years. And I think it's kind of, I don't know, it's not absolute, but I think there's some truth to it. I've heard a lot of guys say that actually the ladies are better bow hunters. And like I said, I don't know if that's an absolute, but I do think that women maybe find it a little bit easier to be patient and women are not as generally as noisy, and a lot of things like that, where I do think, there are a lot of qualities, some of the best bow hunters, that we have in America are female.
Yeah. I mean, definitely the patience and, like personally, like if I saw one of my shooter bucks, but I knew he was like 50 yards, 40 yards, like I won't really shoot past that, so I'm not saying women won't do it either, but I think I have, we have the patience, like, all right, control, we're not going to take a shot. It's too far out of range. We don't get buck fever. But yeah, definitely having patience as a woman definitely, helps in aiding and being a successful bow hunter for sure.
Yeah. Well, you've obviously been, quite successful there. And in a lot of ways, it sounds like you've done, a really great job, not only of, being a bow hunter and a successful bow hunter, but the way that you've integrated that with the rest of your life, and juggling that with your career, your family, your friends, being kind of an advocate there in the community and doing good, and yeah. So you are, I would say that, as far as I can tell, based on our conversation today and everything else that I saw, in that video that PBS did, you're a credit to the bow hunting community. And I would say if we had more folks, like you, in these, suburban areas, we'd have a lot more bow hunters in New York.
I mean, some people, they hate it or love it. They'll be like, no, there's too many hunters. And it's like usually the people that hunt public land saying that. You ever see that meme when it's like first light hits and it's like 20 people in a tree right next to each other?
Oh, no, I totally get it. I mean, we have a lot of hunters here in Pennsylvania, and yeah. I sometimes joke with my buddies because, of course, I work in the hunting industry, and if it wasn't for hunters, I mean, we wouldn't be able to put out, magazines, yeah. And I wouldn't have a job. But I do sometimes joke that selfishly, I wish there weren't any, or so many other hunters, because it's like, yeah, on the one hand, I love the fact that, we've got a great hunting community, but not on the day that you want to go hunt, right? You'd like to have the whole property to yourself. So that's just human nature. Well, I really enjoyed our talk, and I would say this, you are welcome to come back on the Bow Hunting podcast anytime, and bring a couple of your fellow female bow hunters next time. And I want to know if you guys should start a store if you don't have one already. I want to know where I can get Long Island babes and bucks, like t-shirts and stuff, so I can just wear those on my hunts, and people will ask me about it, and I'll be like, well, I know these ladies on Long Island, and you can follow them on Instagram and Facebook, and the whole thing.
Yeah, we do. We have hats, hoodies, we have all kinds of things, and it's nice because like the men really get into it. They support it, like I have a lot of guy friends that'll wear our hats in the woods, and it's really nice, and that's it.
Well, I got to tell my younger son too. He has a good buddy from summer camp. They go to camp here in Pennsylvania, but one of his buddies, his name, it's Vincent. I'm giving a call out to Vincent Lupo. Is Vincent Lupo a name that you would expect in Long Island? Because he lives on Long Island, and he thinks it's crazy. He's been to my house, and like he doesn't understand any of this. And I'm going to tell him, I'm going to be like, Vincent, you got to watch this podcast, because I talked to this woman from Long Island, and she's probably your neighbor, and she's out there killing deer like you wouldn't believe.
I mean, if you had asked me like, 15, 20 years ago, I would probably have the same opinion that Vincent does, honestly. It's funny,
Yep, absolutely. Well, just goes to show if you're open-minded to trying new things, you might just discover a passion, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Jacqueline, I really appreciate it. It was a fun call. I was going to say we don't often, but I'm just going to say we never have before talked to anyone on Long Island. So
really,
you are our official representative from Long Island, and you're putting Long Island on the Peterson's bow hunting map.
Awesome.
All right. So best of luck to you the rest of the season.
You.
Have you shot either of your bucks yet?
Nope, not yet. The rut is just about to start. It's about to get real good here. And duck hunting is going to get good too. So it's all happening.
It's almost hard to find the time for everything that she wants to hunt.
I know. Every day I'm like, what's the wind? What's the wind like?
All right, well, you keep in touch and let me know. Send me a picture when you get those bucks, okay?
Yep, will do.
Thanks for downloading the Peterson's Bowhunting Podcast. All bow hunting, all the time. Pick up the latest issue of Peterson's Bowhunting Magazine on your local newsstand. Or connect with us online at bowhuntingmag.com.